Hello and welcome to Sleuthwood. And today my guest is, do you go by Nicholas or Nick?
Nick is fine.
Nick,
Yeah.
okay. Nick Martens. Did I say it right?
Martens, yeah.
And Nick, you are doing something very interesting. Something quite unusual.
But yeah. I'm doing what I'm calling a spider big year for Oregon, and I'm finding some limitations of because I'm coming at it as a birder, and birders have a wealth of field guides and community and good resources and uh, it's every bird is at least theoretically identifiable, based on looking at it or if you hear it. And so I'm finding all of the ways that looking for spiders is more challenging. And so yeah, it's a learning experience and trying to figure out the parameters of what a spider big ear even looks at as a non-expert has been interesting.
So, you don't have any education or like experience with spiders.
No, so I have a research background. So I'm a scientist by training. I have a PhD in experimental psychology, and I've been a birder for a long time. My wife and I started in 2008 when we lived in Florida, and so we've been in just walking around looking for things. And a lot of birders, they start out with birds and then they just drift. Since you're out there anyway, you might as well notice what else is out there. And so, I'm kind of like a natural history dilettante, and I've over the years I've made greater or lesser attempts to look at dragonflies or butterflies. We've gotten more into mushroom foraging in the last few years, and yeah, spiders. It's just different. For one thing, they're not as salient, even as obviously, spiders don't vocalize in the way that birds do. Um, but even you think of butterflies and dragonflies, and they're very salient animals. So they're out there flying around, and you can't not see them almost. Spiders, you really have to make an effort to try and find them, and so that's something that came more recently, and really during the pandemic when my wife and I, we travel a lot, and especially around Oregon. And when the pandemic hit, it just put a kibosh on all of our plans to travel. We had a big trip planned to New Zealand, and everything was booked and planned for 3 weeks straight. Of like every hour was this is what we're gonna do, and then everything was finalized in like March 2020. So once we couldn't travel, we were home for a long time, and just got a little stir crazy. And you start with yard birding, and you put out the feeders and you maintain them and make sure you're spending outside all this time outside, and you want to just constantly looking at the trees and trying to rack up that yard list as much as possible. And then I got restless with that, and that's when I started really getting into macro photography more. I've got a Canon body with a 35 millimeter lens, and that's been great. It's not like top of the line or anything, but it's portable, and it helps me get a quick shot off, especially for IDing things. So I'm just constantly on iNaturalist, taking pictures and posting things up there and seeing what they are. And so I started keeping a yard list of just what I'm seeing in terms of insects and whatever else is around. And so working with iNaturalist, that it just gets you excited about everything because you want to put everything on iNaturalist. And spiders in particular, I started posting things, and with spiders, I noticed more than with other groups of insects or arthropods that there were some rare records. Not to say that the animals themselves are rare, that it's a rare spider or anything like that, but I was posting things that other people weren't posting, and that was really exciting. And so yeah, I started find there are some spiders that I have the only observation for Oregon. And I started noticing that that was happening more for spiders than other groups. And I thought, well, what if I make a deliberate effort to actually try and find spiders? And that's kind of where it evolved into. And now that we can travel again and get around Oregon more easily, um, it's just seeing what we can see in different habitats, and you know, looking in places that maybe this thing is really common in an area, but nobody's looked for it before, and just seeing where that takes me.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And you're doing it just for Oregon, right?
Yeah, so it's been limited to Oregon, and the one thing that I really love is that there's no bar. I mean, like, there's no standard that I'm comparing myself against, because nobody's done this before. If I'm sure that there are arachnologists who have come through Oregon, and they've done sweeps and surveys, and they want to know the distribution and everything. But in terms of where that's available widely, there's Bug Guide and
Mm-hmm.
there's iNaturalist. So in terms of what people are posting and seeing around, those are the sources. And iNaturalist is a lot easier for looking at maps of where sightings are from, and so you can see what you're seeing, what your neighbors are seeing, and um, distributions of sightings over a particular area, whatever that is. So you can quickly see, I want to see jumping spiders in Oregon, or you can even limit it to your county or draw your own
Mm-hmm.
circle in the map, and it'll tell you whatever criteria you put. You'll get to see the observations that other people have reported for that. So iNaturalist has been a great record for this, and I've created a project so I can keep track of all my Oregon 2023 sightings get added automatically to the project, and so yeah, but I really like that. You know, I'm just doing it and seeing what it is. It's not competitive at all, and it kind of reminds me of other less rigorous or more lighthearted big years. I think of Mariposa Road is,
Mm.
he's out there, he's doing the effort, he's making the effort and seeing butterflies all over the country, but he's not trying to create a record that nobody's ever going to beat. He's just doing it because nobody's done it before.
That was Robert Michael Powell, right?
Yeah, Robert
Yeah,
Michael Powell.
yeah. um, I've met him.
He's a cool guy.
Yeah, he is. He's quite a character. I should have him on my show. No, wait, he's a scientist. Well, anyway. um, so I heard that you recently went to find a very interesting spider on the shoreline.
Yeah, so we've got friends out on the coast, and we met up with our friends Jen and Jacob, who live in Lincoln City, to look for the intertidal jumping spider. So this is, yeah, it's exactly what it sounds like in terms of habitat. Um, it's out on the rocks, pretty close to the shore, where the tide goes in and out, and yeah, so this was a rare example for us. So my wife Maureen, she is she's my eyes, really. She's better at spotting. I'm the one who's like, going to the effort of like rolling over logs or beating trees with sticks and see what falls out. And but if there's a spider that's just out, then she will inevitably see it way before I do. So she finds many of the spiders. In this case, yeah, Jen was out there helping us look, and she spotted the intertidal jumping spider for me. So that was fun, going out. This was the first time that we went spidering with friends this year.
That's not something most people say.
Yeah, yeah. That might be the first time that sentence has ever been. But yeah, I mean, we have very naturalist friendly, friends that they're people that we met through birding, but are also very into iNaturalist, and so we've got great friends that will take pictures of spiders or not necessarily go out looking specifically for spiders, but that we, be able to join up with, and that would be happy to help me on this endeavor.
So did you go to the beach just to look for the spider, or was it?
Yeah, so there are a couple different spiders that are. This is where you're going to find them, is at the coast. So there's intertidal jumping spider is one, and we got that one, and then there's a shoreline wolf spider, which I haven't had yet. So we're going to make another trip to the coast at some point.
I think I've seen that one.
Yeah, they're up there. So up on the dunes, I think is where you'd find them. We'll see what we see, but I don't believe I've seen wolf spiders at the shore, but I haven't seen a shoreline wolf spider.
Maybe
so this would be. Yeah, so like I said, we travel a lot. We get around. So this is actually the first year that we've lived in Oregon that we're not making a trip out to Eastern Oregon of all years. Right? So we live in the Willamette Valley, and this is, it's a really good, diverse place, and we've got the mountains nearby and the shore. So there's good diversity of habitat, and I don't have a number that I'm trying to hit. So, it's just, I don't feel the need to see every spider or every habitat, which is, it's been nice to kind of make it a nice leisurely project.
Right. Do you have like a list of spiders that you hope to see, or do you just kind of go to different places and hope to see what you see?
So going to the shore, that I definitely had some targets. Otherwise, I don't really have expectation. When I started this, January 1st, I kind of knew what was around, like in the garage and on the walls, and in the dark corners in the yard. So I knew what I could get really easily, and I know places that I've seen spiders in the past, and I might make return trips there to try and see that again if I still need it. But otherwise, I'm pretty open because, if you think of a birding field guide, there's range maps, there's a good understanding of, habitat and everything. Habitat you can definitely find for spiders, but there's really, you're not going to see range maps for the most part. Princeton University Press just put out a field guide of spiders of North America, and that does have some range maps, but it's for the entire country, and it's very selective in terms of what species are in there. So it's not comprehensive by any means, and it's not specific to the region. So that's of limited use. iNaturalist, again, if I want to look up where a spider's been seen, that's super easy to do. So I guess as the year starts winding down, I may have to resort to searching for specific species that's another thing is I don't know how many species I've seen because I officially I have 72 distinct taxa that I've recorded for the year. Not all of those are identifiable to species. So I'm not necessarily listing species, but if I know I have 2 funnel weavers and they're different ones, if I can get it to genus, or even if I know they're not the same species, then I'll count that. Spiders are difficult because they're variable, and the diagnostic aspects of them are not necessarily things that you can see from a picture. So that's been kind of a learning experience too of what is even an identifiable spider. I might be able to get something to species. Hopefully, genus is great, and then even family. I don't know all of the spider families. In terms of eye configurations and and leg spination. So that's kind of a learning experience, even to getting spiders to family. Um, but it's been, you know, a fun learning experience. But in terms of what is countable, or diagnostic, it's humbling, uh, to say the least.
Yeah, you
Um,
didn't pick an easy group to
yeah,
target.
and so this is another great thing about iNaturalist is I'm by no means an expert, but there are experts on iNaturalist who check that, and you can tag people in, you know, if you know who the experts are, or you look at who the top identifiers are for a given taxon, and you can tag them and hope they weigh in. And so that's been a great learning experience. There are some really super knowledgeable and helpful people on there that, you know, if uh, you can ask for an ID, and then, you know, if they give it and I'm still clueless, like why is it that, then I can ask for some follow up, and there have been individuals on there that are, been happy to help,
Mm.
and really happy to, you know, answer a specific question that I have.
Is Rod Crawford one of them by any chance?
He definitely is, yes.
Yeah, I talked to him when I wrote my first book, Nature Obscura.
Okay.
I actually took him. I
I
collected a bunch of spiders around my house and took them into him, and he identified most of them for me.
I try not to take advantage of his generosity, but he's just so knowledgeable that, I it's hard to resist sometimes.
I think he just lives and breathes spiders.
Yeah, yeah.
He's definitely the spider guy. I mean, he works for the Brick Museum up here in Seattle,
Right, yeah.
so yeah, he's kind of a local. Gets pegged a lot in the Seattle Times articles about spiders every fall and
Oh yeah.
spider myths and things like that, um, which is kind of funny. Um, so what is it? I want to know, like, what interesting things have you learned about spiders, like their natural history and their behavior? What I'm sure you've learned a lot as you've been out there searching for them.
Yeah, well, I've also been reading about spiders as I go along. I'm really just taken with the diversity right now of just the different ways of. So it's very macro level in terms of what I've learned about spiders, but it's, you know, just in terms of the different ways of being a spider. It's not really something I've thought a lot about before, but, you know, you've got um, the really charismatic, predatory, you know, like jumping spiders
Mm.
with forward-facing eyes, and the really, you know, active hunters versus the passive hunters, or, you know, you've got the, um, you know, spiders in webs, and the orb weavers, and you've got ones that just, you know, you're gonna find them and in your garage, just, you know, there's just so many different ways of being spiders, and that's really interesting to me. um, and yeah, I don't know, like I'm still learning more about the natural history, but yeah, there's some great books, and in fact I've got some here that just because Princeton University Press, so this is the Spiders of North America.
Okay.
This came out recently. It's a big book. um, if you're on the West Coast, I don't actually recommend that as a first choice. I've been using this as, this is fantastic. It's Field Guide to the Spiders of California and the Pacific Coast States, and it covers California, Oregon, Washington. It's got really detailed information about the genera, um, and what states those, you know,
Mm.
are covered by those genera. Um, it's got great illustrations, and because it's region specific, it's you know, the hit rate on if I'm looking for something is a lot higher than if I'm looking at a broader guide. So I love that. But Private Life of Spiders is a really good. This is also Princeton University Press. Um, that's a great book, just kind of an overview about different fun things about spiders. Um, and another one from Princeton, or Amazing Arachnids. This is not just spiders, but this is somebody that's focused on Arizona, but in terms of the diversity of not just spiders, but it's got all the different like groupings of arachnids. So it's got harvestmen and scorpions and pseudoscorpions and whip scorpions, and so that's a great book too. So yeah, I'm just kind of learning as I go. I don't really have any fun spider facts, unfortunately, but it's just I love observing them and seeing what I see. I don't know.
Have you, like, when I was writing my first book, I did a lot of spider research, and then I ended up like making a little terrarium jar and then catching them and bringing them in just to watch them for a day or two. And
Oh, that's great.
Have you tried that at all?
I haven't yet. I'm very much being kind of an observer right now. In terms of, I know there are entomologists that, tell you definitely, it's fine to collect. And I mean, I know you're not talking about that, but just bring them in. Right now I'm just kind of seeing spiders in their element, and then moving on, I guess, and, looking for the next one. But because I'm really just fascinated by the diversity and the variety. I would love to learn more, and that's kind of the next step of learning more about their anatomy and behavior. And so I would love to start bringing some especially jumping spiders in the house and watching them hunt and be more active. And right now, in terms of collecting, that's probably something I can move on to next. I like I said, I'm coming at this as a birder, and this is kind of an exercise in listing. And so as much as I want to get everything to species, you really got to focus on dissection for that, and especially with the reproductive parts, like the palps on the males, and the reproductive parts on the female, the epigynum and such. So I don't want to kill a spider just for a tick on a list. So right now I'm just focused on being an observer and taking lots and lots of pictures. And yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at. But in terms of trying to find the spiders, I've taken lots of different routes. So obviously people think of looking for spiders, and most people are going to think of a spider web. And that's probably the most salient, extended phenotype of a spider is, they leave these traces, the webs. And so that's one thing you can do to look for spiders. My favorite thing to do now is, and this precedes the spiders by a little bit, but is just going out and banging tree branches with a stick and then seeing what falls out. That's been very productive, and I find things all the time in there, and not just spiders, but I've found like beetles and just all kinds of things that don't really get reported because nobody's beating trees with sticks. We did some camping in the Cascades last weekend, and I kind of figured out how to take that on the road, which is just with a butterfly net, and just slip a branch in there and bang that around a little bit and see what falls out in the butterfly.
That's actually one of the projects in my new book, The Naturalist at Home, was bush beating.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
It's very productive, and it
fun.
makes me look a complete lunatic. But it's really like one of the best ways that you can find things that nobody else is really looking for.
One of the tricks I read is to carry a white umbrella, and then you just hold the umbrella under the bush or the branch, and then you can hit things into the umbrella.
Yeah, that's great. That'd be right, because then everything's going to slip down to the
Yeah.
That's a very good idea. Yeah.
And then you can just, carry an umbrella, which is often easy to stick in your car or whatever.
Yeah, right.
Not like a butterfly net. A butterfly net's great. It's very functional, but
Yeah.
you can just stick it in your pocket.
Right. Yeah, I've also set out some traps in the yard. So spider traps, basically, it's just like we have like a big Greek yogurt container, They poke some holes in the bottom for drainage, and then um, slip another one underneath, so you've got some room in between for air, and if it rains, then you've got some room for the spider before it starts drowning. That's not been super productive for me, but I've gotten some things in there. So that's been another way that I look for spiders. Um, yeah, and just having my wife around. So Maureen is just the better spider hunter. Um, but vault toilets and
Yeah.
like those are
Yeah.
fantastic places to look for spiders. Uh, Picnic tables. So these are just places that it's really easy to just poke around and see what's around.
Tree bark
Uh,
seems like another really good one. I to see lots of spider webs on tree bark, like especially the old Douglas fir
yeah,
bark.
yeah, yeah. Right, and especially right. And speaking of tree bark, fallen bark.
Mm-hmm.
Look under there, roll logs over. Um, Yeah, and in fact, American cellar spider is a spider that I had recently that was the first observation in INAT for that species in Oregon. I just up in the Cascades where they should be, and just flipped over some bark, and there it was.
Huh.
Nothing. I wasn't making an extraordinary effort or anything like that. I was just looking in a place that people aren't necessarily looking to find anything. So, um,
Yeah, that's not a common hobby.
yeah. No.
So you mentioned your wife. Is she embraced your project? Does she help? Is she
Oh,
interested in
absolutely.
spiders?
Yeah. Yeah, we're out all the time, and she's like, I mean, we're both nature hounds, so we're out there looking for stuff anyway, whether it's birds or mushrooms. But yeah, so we started out not just with the now I've got a proper macro lens,
Mm-hmm.
but we started out with just the macro clip for your phone.
Right.
The
Yeah.
little $20 lens. I mean, those take great pictures. So we were taking macro photography before even we got fully invested in the macro and going whole hog with like the spiders and everything. But yeah, she's an invaluable assistant for this project. Um, if she were the one doing the spider big ear, she she would blow me out of the water. But no, she's just she's focused on helping me. So but yeah, she's a great spider assistant for just turning stuff up.
So did the spiders inspire you to do more macro photography?
Yeah. Well, God, I we just like I just said we were camping in the Cascades last weekend, and we were there 2 nights, and I came back and had to clean up 1,500 photos. So I just can't help myself sometimes. But you never know what's going to come out, especially macro
It's
photography.
true, yeah.
So at least you can pare it down really well afterwards and see just leave the best ones. But yeah, so we're just out there looking for bugs anyway. So spiders is just it's something to focus on, and it's just a little more incentivized in terms of the spiders. But we're just happy to see what we see.
Right.
We're just gonna hike regardless, and you know it's always just gonna be fun, even if we don't see anything. So
That's the best part about being a naturalist. It's just you don't know what you're gonna find, but it's always fun.
yeah, exactly, right.
And we should mention you have an Instagram account that you keep lots of good
Yeah,
photos on.
yeah. Hipster Birders is my Instagram handle. Also on iNaturalist, if you want to look up the iNaturalist project, that I've got all my sightings that go toward this project are in there. Yeah, Hipster Birders. We used to be young and cool, so kind of a holdover from when we had a blog back in the day.
If you want to
But
send me your iNaturalist page, I can put it onto the YouTube description
oh
so
yeah,
anybody can
that's a
see
good
it.
idea.
Yeah, and the link will be there. And I wanted to ask also, so you've been traveling a lot, and since you've been doing the Spider Big Year since what, January, um, and you just went to Hawaii. Like, have you carried that? I know it doesn't count towards your Oregon figure, but I mean, you can't stop, right?
Yeah, in fact, yeah. So Hawaii was a great one. Before that, in March we went to Grenada, and that was very cool. Looking for spiders in Grenada because there are only a handful of species that are in Grenada, but and I found like a peer-reviewed paper that was like a survey of species in Grenada, and there were, not many. It was like 24 or something like that. Um, a fraction of those were in iNaturalist with only like 30, 40 observations total. And so I was able to add some species for Grenada. It's a place that not many people go to begin with, let alone looking for spiders. So it was good to make that contribution and just see what's around. Yeah, Hawaii was fantastic, and still got some IDs I need to key out from there. I'm well behind on that because we just keep moving on to the next thing. So I need some time to just focus on what we've already seen and process it. But yeah, it's been fun. Yeah, definitely carrying that interest to other places, and yeah, just seeing what's what's around. But it's not really something you can turn off. It's like
Right.
it's like once you're tuned in, then you just look for them everywhere. So same with spiders. You're in a tropical paradise and you still you know uh, rolling over logs and looking for webs in the brush and everything.
Most people are laying on the beach and you're rolling around logs.
Yeah.
Do you get spider envy? Because I mean, I know the Pacific Northwest isn't like we don't have the most extravagant spiders, but I imagine Hawaii does.
Yeah, I definitely get spider envy, and even in Oregon, there are so megalomorphs are that's the group that tarantulas belong
Hmm.
to. We don't have tarantulas in Oregon, but we have members of that group, and so those are very cool looking, and like Pacific folding door spider is a pretty charismatic, pretty common example of that, but I've never seen one. So we've got friends that definitely have, and there's another one, woodlouse hunter, that if they eat woodlice. So if you've got pill bugs in your yard, supposedly they should be around, but I've never seen one. So those are both pretty common spiders if you look on iNaturalist in terms of the number of observations that are reported. I would love to see those. So hopefully I can turn them up for my big year. But definitely envious of anybody who gets to see those because
Are
those are very cool looking
the
spiders.
woodlouse ones, are they reddish, like the reddish body?
They have a pretty whitish
Oh, okay.
abdomen
Okay.
and just like crazy jaws.
Ah.
So just, like uh, very intimidating looking, but not. I mean, they're not dangerous. I don't think in any significant way.
Are the folding door spider? Are those like trapdoor spiders, or do they make little burrows?
Yeah,
Okay.
right. Yeah, they're similar, and yeah, I think they. We've got a friend who finds them whenever she's digging in her garden. So, um, I maybe we just don't have them, or we've got the wrong kind of soil for us to dig around in. But I think generally what you see is the females. I think stay pretty hunkered down, and you tend to see the males that are wandering and
Mm.
trying to find females. And so maybe it's the wrong season that I'm out there, or maybe I haven't gotten to it yet, or maybe I'm just not digging around as much as I should.
You haven't done enough weeding.
Yeah, right.
Maybe you can go help your friend do some weeding.
Yeah.
Sure, they wouldn't say no. I mean, I wouldn't say no. So I wanted to ask you also. You are doing more traveling for the rest of the year.
Yeah, well, we're going to Astoria next month, so hopefully get some more coastal
Hmm.
spiders. And it's just any chance to go to Astoria anyway is always worthwhile. We're planning a trip to the Yukon in in October, so that'll be interesting. I don't know. It's going to be very cold, not as cold as it gets. Um, but yeah, so that'll be a big trip. We're gonna hopefully see the Northern Lights while we're out there.
That'll be fun. Um, so the spiders, I mean, they're pretty much everywhere, right?
Yeah,
And there's got to be some snow, you know, like northern species.
I'm gonna look for them.
I mean, like we think about spiders, and they're on the coast. I mean, there's very few invertebrates on. Well, sorry, there's very few insects that spiders aren't insects. I know, but there's very few things on the shoreline that are not marine invertebrates. I mean, I know there's
Right.
like flies and spiders, um, and even like out in the middle of the ocean, spiders are one of the few things that are out floating in the air.
Yeah, right. Yeah, people, I'm sure, not only would they be horrified to know that there are spiders at the beach, but when they think of spiders, spiders can fly more or less. Yeah.
Like, I remember a David Attenborough program. I think it was Life in the Undergrowth, maybe. But he was up in a hot air balloon,
Right.
and they were like collecting like the air, and they found all these little spiders that way up, way up high in the sky. Spiders just floating around up in the air.
Yeah. Right.
So as you've done this project, have you? I'm sure you've encountered a lot of people as you're out doing your thing and talking to people. What's the reaction? Because I know spiders create a lot of fear in people. So do you have to, like talk spiders up, say, they're not that bad, they're not scary, they're not dangerous?
Mostly just to my mom. um, but it's funny how incurious most people are. I mentioned, I'm out in the yard beating trees with sticks, which is just about the most psychotic thing to do. I really don't. I've never caught a weird glance or anything. People just look straight ahead and move on as they're walking down the street, and I don't know if that's a reflection on me or on them. But I would, if I saw somebody doing that, I'd be pretty curious what the hell's happening. So I've it's just funny. With my macro lens, I have to get very close to things sometimes, which, and spiders can be very, very tiny. So it just, if I've got a spider on the ground and I'm hunched over and taking pictures, it just looks like I'm taking pictures of nothing. Um, I'm happy to talk to people if they, but it's been funny how little interest I've had in just the weird guy that is doing something, but they don't know what. But yes, spiders. People have a bad impression of spiders, and I talk to people about just telling people that aren't necessarily nature people, just that I'm doing something, and there's definitely some people. I think it's more of an affectation. Like people, people lean into this idea that they're supposed to be afraid of spiders. Arachnophobia. That's not to downplay legitimate arachnophobia, which is certainly a real condition. But I think a lot of people, maybe they're squeamish, but then they tell themselves that they're afraid of spiders, and then they just know that their appropriate reaction is to run away or something like that. So it's definitely a misunderstood group. The way I think of it is certainly there are venomous spiders, and there are well, so that's the thing. There are medically significant spiders, and we have western black widows in Oregon. I try to limit the extent to which I handle any spider. And I'm not going to handle a black widow, but the way I think of it is actually all spiders are venomous. They all have venom. There's one family of spiders, the Uloboridae, that is non-venomous. That's our only non-venomous spider in Oregon, I think. It's the hackled orb weavers, and they actually don't have venom. So they wrap their prey up in silk really, really snugly before they eat them. So they don't subdue them with venom and then tackle them that way. but all of the other spiders that we have, they are technically venomous. Spiders have venom. It's just that doesn't mean that they're dangerous, or it's certainly medically significant. That doesn't mean I want to be bitten by a spider. um, I certainly take precautions to not aggravate spiders. Um, but I think of it as in terms of like if I see a dog walking down the street, you know, the question is it, with spiders it's not is it venomous. With dogs, if I see a dog, it's not does that dog have teeth. Just because it has teeth doesn't mean it's a threat. What I want to know is that what's the likelihood that that dog poses a threat to me. And with spiders, across the board it's very low. And then you think there are medically significant ones like Western black widow that just you don't mess with them if you don't have to.
I know.
So that's definitely a misunderstanding of
Yep.
People are terrified about spiders, and they get blamed for a lot of mysterious bumps that appear on your body. Like, oh, I don't know, if it's not a mosquito, or if I don't know that it's a mosquito, then it must be a spider. There are lots of reasons that people get weird bumps on their body that aren't related to spider. If you haven't seen a spider on you, or near that, whatever, if it's a bite or not, then it's probably not fair to blame a spider, because spiders aren't just out there wandering around looking for people to bite.
The original scapegoat, I swear.
Yeah, for sure.
When I was doing my research, I read that like most skin problems are actual fungal infections or bacteria,
Yeah,
not
yeah.
spider.
Yeah, there's definitely something that's just it's an easy, like, who's going to defend spiders?
Right.
And I can't prove that it's not a spider that bit you, so it's just an unfalsifiable statement that people are happy to throw out there.
Yeah, the people are absolutely convinced that they were bitten by a spider. I've talked to a number of them.
Yeah.
Did you see the spider? Well, no, but I know you probably encountered it when you do photography, but spiders are very skittish. A lot of them are they've got really good eyesight.
Yeah, well, some of them, jumping spiders certainly do,
Mhm.
and wolf spiders. Oh yeah, I think like orb weavers don't have great eyesight, but those aren't the ones that are going to move around a lot anyway. But they can sense a presence, especially through vibrations, obviously.
Yes. Oh, we've lost. Oh, you cut out for a second.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
Am I back?
Vibrations, yeah.
Okay, fine. Yeah, yeah. Photographing them can be a challenge, especially with this project. It's very photography based, because I want to have things that are identifiable to the greatest extent possible that I can put on iNaturalist. So that's kind of the reason that I take so many photos, is because I don't know what's going to come out. Even with web, orb weavers, things in webs, it really takes the gentlest breeze to just cause the biggest headache, because it's just gonna flap in the wind a little bit, and you just have to be patient. With jumping spiders or more active spiders, you just have to wrangle them the best you can, maybe tire them out. I know you can put them in the freezer for a little bit, and that'll chill them out, and that makes them more docile. I haven't done that for this project, but there are tricks like that you can do. If I've got them in the butterfly net, I can kind of adjust it and make sure they don't get out. So there are ways, but it's not easy, and some spiders are easier than others.
I've noticed when I have a spider right outside the kitchen window, and when I open the blinds on the inside, the curtain, the spider on the outside will start shaking really fast.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Which is kind of a neat trick. I don't know how they know it, if it's just that they see the curtain go up, or if there's some vibrations or something that they
Right.
detect. But that's like a defense mechanism, right? Like, Because I know cellar spiders do that too. Like they just.
Yeah, and what you're probably talking about, I know I get silver-sided sector spiders, or a kind of orb weaver that I get around my windows, and I've definitely seen them do that. Yeah, I don't know if it's just trying to make a moving target, or I suspect that's part of it. I don't know that it's necessarily an adaptation to annoy photographers, but it works on that level too.
And I know. I remember I was trying very hard to catch a false widow. I had several in my basement.
Oh yeah.
And it took me days to catch one because every time, because they made their webs between the posts on the wall, and every time I tried to get close to them, even if I even bumped a piece of their web, they shot out of there and they're like hiding to the corners and back in the wood.
Yeah.
And so, like, yes, that is one of the ones that could actually like do a bit of damage if it bit you.
Yeah.
But trying to get it to bite you in the first place.
Right. Right.
Like, I had a whole system of popsicle sticks and like my vial and.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I was trying to find. We've got right now our grass is covered with funnel webs. So we've got the Agellanopsis. This is one example of my Latin being terrible. I don't know how to pronounce anything. You know, I'm reading all of these scientific names, but I don't know the correct way to pronounce them all. But Agellanopsis, we've got just a whole yard full of them right now. But they've got these funnel webs that are in the grass, and you can see the little funnel where they'll come in and out. But if you get close enough, then they just duck down, and then they've got this hole. They can just run in between the leaves and the grass, and you'll never find them if they don't want to be found. So yesterday, that was my big challenge of trying to get an Agellanopsis funnel weaver that I could get a decent photo of, but just trying to wrangle them out of that funnel was a challenge.
Did you succeed?
I did, yeah.
All it takes is one cooperative one, right?
Yeah, right. Well, so this is actually, I'm not sure that this is where I'm still trying to figure out the limits of identifiability, because I saw one that I know definitely was an Agellanopsis, and then I got a bad photo of another one that I was pretty sure was, but I couldn't say based on that photo, and so I put it to a more general taxon. I just put it to the subfamily, and then I had somebody that came in and identified it as Agellanopsis. That that was a learning experience that it is identifiable from that photo. So just that's I've taken a lot of photos that I've gotten some feedback from Rod Crawford, about especially the Linophiidae, the sheet web weavers, which is a really challenging group, and I'll tag him sometimes and I'll say, do you know what this is, or is it this thing that I think it is? And I get these comments about leg spination. So I can't see the spines on leg 2 well enough. It's like, okay, I need to go back and try and get better photos. But you just in terms of what characteristics of any given spider I need in order for that to be diagnostic, that's been a challenge, and it's hit and miss, and it's just a real learning experience, because I've got my hands tied here in terms of what I'm trying to do in terms of being passive and just trying to learn from photos and finding all of the shortcomings of that method.
Yeah, I learned early on with bug photography that you have to keep all your bad photos because they might show a piece of the anatomy that is essential. And like
my hard drive's filling up real fast.
Yes, it's a good thing you don't do like all kinds of butterflies and dragonflies and everything else too.
Well,
not yet.
That's the problem with being a dilettante. Is
right.
I am interested in all those things too.
So, I hate to ask, is this spider project gonna keep going, or are you gonna move on to another project, or are you done with projects for a while, or?
I don't know. We may find another project. May move back into birding, do like a county big year or something like that, or we'll always find something to challenge ourselves, and hopefully find things that are learning experiences like this has been. I'm definitely going to keep my interest in spiders and hopefully take it to the next level. And maybe I'll, keep doing this and with better results as I become more knowledgeable. Um, but yeah, I think spiders are here to stay.
Now they're embedded in you.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, just like birds. Like birds were your first gateway,
Yeah.
and they're not going anywhere. I mean,
Yeah, it's just once you're out there, I mean, we're going to be looking for birds and other things anyway. So it's just a question of how intensive I want to be about spiders, whether I roll over those logs or, flip over the fern and see what's underneath. There's going to be something cool, whether it's a spider or not. So,
is there anything else at this point in the year that's like kind of tugging on your interest? Dragonflies or
um, yeah, well, I'm really focused on spiders now because there's certain groups that I feel like I need more of, that I should like I need more of the orb weavers. That's a really commonly seen salient group of spiders that I just love finding new ones, and I feel like I haven't seen enough this year. Um, Jumping spiders, I just want to see. I'm always excited about jumping spider. I got my jumping spider T-shirt here. So just trying to find new stuff right now, especially as we travel. That's been my focus. But yeah, it's a good time of year for all kinds of things. So when we were up in the Cascades, saw probably a dozen different types of butterflies. So I was definitely taking some shots of those, and those are up on my Instagram. So you can take a look at those. So it's all it's all part and parcel of just getting out there.
um, I wanted to ask you also, as far as your big year in Oregon, Spider Big Year, have you had any favorites? Any surprises? What's your most exciting spider discovery?
Oh, well, anything that I find the first one of is always really exciting. Um, so I've got a few records that were the first one. I love finding new jumping spiders. So Maureen, my wife, she found a brilliant jumping spider when we were down in Ashland earlier this year. So that was a first for us, first brilliant jumping spider. So that's always really thrilling to see a new jumping spider. We've had Brzezinski's jumping spider, a couple of those this year. I've never seen that before. So it's really just about taking the effort. That I've always liked spiders to some extent, I guess, since we've been out being naturalists. But since we've been tracking these, it's just yeah, I just get a thrill out of it, seeing anything that I hadn't seen before, and learning about why it is that in terms of keying out an ID. And yeah, we've got some great spiders in Oregon. Um, and it's just a huge variety of different families and different lifestyles, and looking in places that I hadn't looked before. A moldy old rotten tree stump, and I see a sheet web in there, and trying to figure out how to bring this thing out into the light. And it's just one big fun game. So uh, and since I'm really not competing against anyone else,
right,
then
right.
it's good to know that I'm winning too.
Now you mentioned keying out. Are there keys in the books, or do you have to go find scientific literature?
Yeah, there's I don't know about in the California book, but there's another field guide that I haven't mentioned here. But there are some like some keys in there. Um, yeah, I generally just use keying out as not. I know there's like the binary, the trees that you can visit this or this. I really just I appreciate a field guide with good illustrations or photographs. But I I think, and this is something I need to be more deliberate about learning. But the eye configuration is a good one, for at least narrowing down what family you're looking at, how many eyes. But yeah, this it's all, I'm by no means an expert, and this has all been just kind of an exercise in learning about spiders, and yeah, just seeing what I see.
I've got a T-shirt that has the different spider families and their eye configurations.
Okay,
It's
good.
like a grid of all the different spiders. I should have worn it.
Yeah.
You can wear it and learn at the same time.
Yeah, yeah.
Do
But
you?
yeah, that's I right now I'm not really internalizing a lot of this. I want to. I want to be somebody who knows about how to identify spiders in the field and become more knowledgeable. Right now, I'm just happy to take a photograph and come back and sit on it for a while, or read up on it, or tag an expert, whatever it takes to get me to the next level of some kind of understanding with that spider.
It's like video games. You just keep upping your level.
Yeah, right. That's kind of, I mean, that's what what birding is too.
Right.
It's all been, every year you want to be a better birder than that you were the year before. Um, yeah, and yeah, this is not just a fun other thing, not about spiders per se, but I just finished this book, Children of Time, which is a science fiction novel about these. It's the last humans are out on an Ark spaceship. They're trying to find some habitable planet, and they come to a planet of super intelligent jumping spiders, and so it's all about what a culture, what a civilization of super intelligent jumping spiders might look like, and then just seeing how that unfolds and how the humans interact. And but it's just I think it's a good thought experiment of if you've got just a totally alien way of life, that we can't really understand. It's this we don't know what it's like to be a spider, but these are the things that we know about how spiders make their living. What kind of technology would come out of that, or how would they communicate? So they're fun, like just fun little tidbits in there. Like they have computers made of ants. I just finished that, but it's a fun book, and it's kind of tangential to the interest in spiders.
Yeah, I've seen that. I haven't read it, but I'll have to add it to my list.
Yeah, it's fun. It's very good. It's part of a trilogy, so this was book one.
Right, and I'm totally sold. I mean, jumping spiders, intelligent jumping spiders in space. You don't have to sell me more than that. I have one last question for you. Do you know how many species of spiders are in Oregon?
So I don't know if anyone knows. So there are, I think about, I read 42,000 described species in the world, and I saw a figure that there are maybe, I don't know when this figure was determined, but I think maybe like 3,800 species in North America, north of Mexico. So I don't know, is the short answer. So I'm kind of determined. I'm playing with making a list, like a checklist of what can be seen in Oregon, and it's kind of like a lister's checklist, and a lot of that comes out of iNaturalist, of just what's been seen. There are over 200 species, taxa, that you can easily find in Oregon, like independent taxa. Some of those are questionable IDs, and some there are kind of cryptic species in there that even if they're independent taxa, like a genus, because if it's either this genus or this genus, it might get hidden in a larger taxa, and it's hard to. So 200 more or less is kind of the number I have in mind of what is identifiable at this for this project. But like I said, there are so many species that you can only identify at microscopic levels. So it's more than that. I mean, it's many, possibly many more. But in terms of this project, I think 200 is probably the upper limit, or around 200, and I've got 72. So I don't know. Is that good? Is it bad? Who knows?
I mean, it sounds good to me. I mean, I think it's impressive. It's really impressive coming from, virtually no knowledge of spiders to 72.
Yeah.
By what was it? August now?
Yeah. And there's species that I've seen in previous years that I haven't seen this year, including some first INAT records for Oregon that I've seen in previous years. Will I see them again? I don't know. But so a lot of this is just the effort. So there's one kind of cobweb spider, Simatidion simile, that there are only 2 other observations that aren't mine for Oregon, but we've had them in the yard in each of the past 3 springs. So is it is it just locally common to our yard, or is it just a function of the effort that I'm putting in? So right. That's all TBD. I don't know. Hopefully other people will also take up the mantle of looking for spiders, or maybe once there's a benchmark that I can set, then other people, it gets more gamified, and people will have a number that they want to get to best. So who knows? But we'll see.
People like competition. Yeah. All right, well, that was fun. That was such a fun project to learn about. I'm so glad that you told us about it.
Yeah, well, thank you for the interest and the opportunity to talk about it. This was fun, and it was nice to meet you and have this conversation. So.
All right, well, thank you.